This video is about why I ended my record contract with Universal Music. I'm going to show you later on how you can be your own record label. But first, this is my story. I'm a singer-songwriter, born and raised in London, but I now live in the Kent countryside. I have over 8 million streams. I've played thousands of gigs, written hundreds of songs, and growing up, my dream was always to sign to a major record label. So I'm going to take you through the story with me. Chapter 1, how I got signed. So I was in my early 20s and I've been playing hundreds of gigs around London trying to get noticed, and lo and behold I got a Facebook message from a guy with no profile picture, and I was like, what is this? But it ended up being, he ended up working for a huge management company in London. I ended up signing with them with the goal of getting signed within the next year or so. So I was so excited. They had this whole plan of how they were going to do it. The first step was getting the music right. So I had 2 or 3 songs they liked, but the rest they needed more like to show to someone. So they put me in all these kind of co-writing sessions with respected writers and producers around London. Yeah, so I did tens and hundreds of them. I can't even remember now. There was a big focus on the aesthetic of the project. They said early on that we needed to kind of work on a look, and because I was kind of making 60s soul music, kind of the same music I make now, they wanted the look to be more in your face. So as soon as, I remember this guy said to me, who, like the friend of the head of the management company, was like, I need to know exactly what type of music you make the second I see you. Before I wasn't really thinking about that, but then I was like, okay, I need to, wear these kind of 1960s suits and like these 60s colors and things to make it really obvious, like what I was doing. Then we got a bunch of photos to capture this aesthetic, I guess. They also wanted to work on my live performance. So I had played hundreds of gigs, so I was already pretty confident with all of that, but they wanted me to do a few little showcases, and they'd invite their booking agent friends, and eventually they got me signed to one of his friends who was this big booking agent in London to kind of make me more attractive for the record labels. The whole thing is about looking like something is happening. The manager wanted me to have a booking agent and like a kind of PR on board and a photographer. So when we went to the record label, you'd be like, well, look at all this stuff that's going on. But a lot of the people, when you go to them, like the booking agent or the photographer, they'd say, oh, we need you to have a record label before we, dedicate time with you. And same with producers and co-writers. So it was all this kind of like catch-22 situation. You had to kind of get lucky and get people interested before other people were interested. So then you could go to those other people and tell them that those people were interested. Yeah, it was a bit of a slog, really. So about 12 to 18 months had passed, and I felt like we had, I think 6 or 7 songs with rough productions, nice photos, a booking agent, a band, and everything looked good. So at that point, the head of my management company went to his label friend, because everyone knows everyone. This guy worked at Universal. Yeah, I think they just had a meeting initially without me, played them my music, showed them my photos and a video or 2. A few weeks later, I met with him and the deal was pretty much done. He agreed to sign me on a rolling singles contract to see kind of how it went. Chapter 2, being signed. It was a rolling singles deal, which meant that either of us, Universal or myself or the management company, could terminate the deal after a single if we weren't happy. But there was also an option for a record label within Universal, I think it was Island Records, to, like, there was a first refusal on me. It was quite a low risk deal for both ends. The terms of the deal were they had to put £1,000 for every single. I think it was just for the PR, so they were we were working with a PR company who were really nice and really established. Essentially, that was all they needed to do. But obviously, they were like going to Spotify, having meetings with them as well, trying to get my stuff on playlists. The lion's share of it was down to me, like filming the music videos, all the content, obviously. Doing content was a big thing that they talked about a lot. Like, oh, you need to do TikToks every day and do the artwork, pay for the actual like singles as well, which I was doing, pay for the production and the mixing and the mastering, sort out all the live shows and do all of that, because there were like kind of single release parties that we were doing to try and generate some kind of interest for each song, because Spotify likes it when you've got like live stuff going on, and same with the PR people. It's that whole thing we were saying before about like kind of smoke and mirrors. You need to look like stuff is going on. So I am like trying to create the illusion of a blow up, and then the blow up in theory actually happens. So the first single came out and it did really, really well. It got on a big Spotify playlist, really quickly. Everyone at the label was really happy, everyone at the management company was really happy, obviously. We put out 4 more singles, and I feel like the rest of them were kind of, like the first one was like that, and then the next one was a bit more like, they were all kind of steadily below it. So they were pretty good, but compared to the first one, everyone felt like a bit of a letdown. At that time, someone at my management company who actually scouted me initially, like my main point of contact, left the management company. There was a bit of a feeling of a loss of momentum. There wasn't a lot I could do. It was also the beginning of COVID, if I remember correctly. I think it was like early 2020. Chapter 3, moving on from the deal. So momentum was stopping, and I felt like maybe the deal wasn't quite right. I think PR was changing at that time. Like the company that we used, who were a lovely company and really hardworking people, but I felt like it was a traditional PR company. It was changing, like everything was becoming more online. People weren't really reading music magazines in the same way as they used to. I don't think it was really having a huge impact on like getting people to listen to the single each time. So I didn't think there was necessarily any point in continuing, and I wasn't really sure if there was any point continuing with the deal. Don't get me wrong, I really loved everyone I worked with at Universal. They were all really hardworking and really good people and gave me kind of creative freedom, I guess. They didn't really ever have they didn't try and change me or anything. At that time, I got an email, and the label, the guy who I was kind of dealing with, my A&R guy, said that the label was disbanding. I think because of COVID, we were able to just kind of stop the agreement really cleanly and really amicably, which was great because it was a rolling singles deal, which meant that I think they own the singles now still for about 3 more years. I think it was 8 years at the time. So they get 50% of the singles. So I get the other 50 for 8 years, and then I get 100% back. We just stopped releasing music together, basically. So I was able to get out of that deal and kind of start releasing music myself. Yeah, there were other benefits of having a record label that I wasn't necessarily utilizing as well, because I didn't really want to. Obviously, the guy who I dealt with at Universal was really respected and knew loads of co-writers and producers and stuff, and he was kind of often saying to me, oh, you should work with this guy, you know, I can introduce you. And I was always really hesitant because I was getting more into producing myself and was just fed up with co-writing, to be honest. I felt like whenever I did a co-write, I ended up writing the whole thing. Often people were just exhausted from doing loads of co-writes with people like me and weren't really bringing their A game, but I felt like every time I was like, always bring my A game because maybe I had more to prove, I guess. If we don't have the PR and we don't have the co-writing, then the purpose of the label, in my situation, there wasn't a clear thing that I was getting from it. Chapter 4, how I'm feeling now. Initially, when the deal kind of ended, I was still quite disappointed that like the label disbanded and it didn't really go as I'd wanted it to, because that had always been my dream, to have this major record company look after me and put my music out and make me a superstar. But as time went on, I realized that I was happy about it because I am quite independent in my spirit. I started writing and producing more and more alone, and at this point, I literally have a shed in my garden, essentially, where I do everything. And I was kind of doing that on the label anyway. It didn't really make sense for me to obviously give like 50% of my music away, often for like some kind of clout and credibility, because, you know, other people, when they know that you're signed to Universal, like friends and family, they're like, oh wow, you've made it. And obviously I've lost that now. Like, it doesn't really matter what other people think, like what the perception is of how your music is doing, because I could be getting loads of streams or I could be getting loads of stuff that they don't really know about or understand, but it might not look like I'm doing well, but I'm doing better now than I ever have been, even though it doesn't seem that way to the outside world. It depends what's important to you. In terms of signing another record deal, I think I'd be very unlikely to do it, but if I was to, it would be under very different conditions, I think, like contractually. Chapter 5, how to be your own label. It's easy to be your own label. You just have to do everything yourself. Which sounds harder than it is. So obviously the tracks, firstly, you need to write, produce, mix them. And you can either do that yourself, as I do, or you can get someone to help you. Photography and videography, again, you can record yourself doing everything, or you can get someone to help you, either a friend or you can pay someone if you want. You can get a distributor for next to nothing who will put your music on the platforms like Spotify or Apple Music. I don't know, like £10 for one release or £20 for an album, and you get to keep 100% of your royalties. Probably the most important thing about being your own label is building your brand, social media marketing, posting lots of short form and long form content on various social media platforms like this one. Essentially what the label would ask you to do anyway. If you want to spend a bit of money, then you can also like get really good at advertising and like online advertising, basically paid ads. In terms of working with other artists or producers, you can just reach out to them on Instagram or YouTube or anywhere. But most importantly, don't give up.